I'll let you know. Still populating. Okay, you're live.
All right, good morning, everyone. Today is Friday, March 20th, 2026. I'm Delegate Edith Patterson, and this is the last meeting of the Southern Maryland delegation. However, it is a really important meeting because we have a guest here who will provide tremendous information as it relates to the military families. But before we do that, I'm going to ask if you will please allow me to offer the Pledge of Allegiance. Delegate Todd Morgan and as well as Delegate Jeff Long have 9 o'clock meetings, and we know that this is a really few days before crossover. So if you will please help me lead the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I hope I did Todd proud when he sees this. Okay. And seriously, the world that we in and the things that we do is really critical that we recognize that there's a higher power. So if you bow your heads for a moment, Heavenly Father, as we gather here today, give us guidance and wisdom. We thank you for the health that you've given us to lead the work for the people of this great state and for those who are working for our great nation. Thy name we pray. Amen. Delegate Long told me, he said, you could just do a prayer. And so I hope I did my best. Okay. We are really excited today to have the senior senator for the state of Maryland in the United States Senate. And really, Senator Chris Van Hollen doesn't need any introduction because we've seen him on television. We've seen him really around our great state of Maryland, and we know his advocacy for those who are without a voice. And so again, welcome, Senator Van Hollen. And again, before you come on, I'd like to acknowledge the work of Roderick Lewis. He's done tremendous work in Maryland, so welcome.
Well, thank you very much, Madam Chair, Chair Patterson, and it's great to be with all of you, the Southern delegation. I remember very fondly my days in the General Assembly, and I know this is a really busy time, but I do want to thank you for all the work that you do over the 90-day period, because I can tell you you're a lot more efficient than the United States Congress in getting things done. And thank you for acknowledging Roderick Lewis. He is our regional director on the ground, so feel free anytime to call me directly, but Roderick is our ambassador to Southern Maryland. So thank you for recognizing his efforts. Look, it's no secret that it's a very polarized and divided time in the country and in the Congress. Lots of really challenging things happening here at home and around the world. I will say that the General Assembly has had to work hard to address some of the cuts that were made last year in what Republicans in the Congress called their big, beautiful bill, but cuts to Medicaid, cuts to food nutrition programs. Some of those cuts are timed to really pop up after the next election, but you've had to make adjustments through your budget process, and we understand that you're working hard to make sure the people of Maryland are not hit too hard as a result of those cuts. They will be hit, but not as much as because of your efforts trying to soften the blow. I do, amidst all the challenges at the federal level, just want to highlight some of the good news, not a lot of good news, but we did pass our budget this year at the federal level, which may sound like a low bar, but we hadn't done it the year before. The year before at the federal level, our budget went on automatic pilot, so called a continuing resolution. This year, about quarter of the way, a little more into the fiscal year, we were actually able to pass a fresh budget. And that has been good news for the state of Maryland. And we were able to fully fund important, federal investments throughout Southern Maryland, in Charles, Calvert, St. Mary's, Pax River, obviously a major federal installation, Indian Head, and an Indian Head, in addition to providing the annual funding to support their operations, we were able to secure about $19 million more at the Surface Warfare Center to support what they call a new contained burn facility that will help them increase the tempo of many of their efforts, which will be helpful to the surrounding communities in terms of economic developments. We were also able to secure, when I say we, worked very closely, of course, with my partner, Senator Angela Alsobrooks, and with Steny Hoyer and the rest of the delegation. We were able to secure $30 million in direct investments to important projects throughout Southern Maryland. The year before, we had on paper secured some of those commitments, but because we never passed a budget, they all disappeared. This year, we were able to obtain them. So just for example, we secured more money for the Southern Maryland Rapid Transit project to keep that going. In terms of next steps, we secured funds for the College of Southern Maryland. I'm not going to go through the whole list. Roderick can provide it for those of you who are interested, but it was about $30 million total for important investments in the region. We also were able to avoid the cuts that had been proposed by the Trump administration to some programs that are important in Southern Maryland, the Marine Sanctuary federal program at Mallows Bay, as well as the Southern Maryland Heritage Fund effort region. They had proposed cutting back on those, and we were able to continue those efforts. And finally, the Chesapeake Bay, which of course is important to all of us in Maryland, but Southern Maryland is one of the parts of Maryland where there's a very special attachment, of course, to the Bay, which is essential for and is a lifeline to many people, whether it's the watermen, whether it's the tourism industry, the boating industry. So the bottom line at the federal level for almost every federal agency turned out to be pretty good news. Not everything I would have wanted, but pretty good news. The one exception I'm sure you're hearing about is the Department of Homeland Security. So because of what I view as really out of control, lawless ICE operations around the country, in Maryland and Minneapolis and other places, many of us have demanded significant reforms to rein in the abuses. I mean, we've seen 3 Americans killed by ICE agents, including the 2 in Minneapolis. We've seen, people who pose no risk to public safety swept up and incarcerated. The Trump administration said they were going to go after the so-called worst of the worst, but that's not where they've been focused. All of us agree that if you're not here legally and you've engaged in violent crimes, of course you should be held completely accountable, but that has not been their focus. So the bottom line is we've said no funding for ICE while we work to try to make these reforms. However, and I want to stress this, we have now attempted, Senate Democrats, 8 times as of yesterday, to provide funding for other offices within the Department of Homeland Security. So TSA, okay? TSA, FEMA, as well as Coast Guard. We have one Coast Guard facility down in St. Inigo's, down in St. Mary's. So we are going to keep pressing for those agencies to be fully funded. It makes no sense to hold them hostage to these other negotiations. And by the way, because the Republican Congress, when they passed their so-called Big Beautiful Bill, funded ICE at a huge level, like 7 times their annual bill. And they funded Customs and Border Patrol at about double. Those agents are working and being paid. And so it's really unfair to penalize TSA agents at this at any time. But so that we're very focused on trying to get money to those elements within the Department of Homeland Security. Quick word on federal employees. This time last year, Elon Musk and the Doge boys were wreaking havoc across the government, and I think there's a consensus that they did a lot of harm and damage and did not make any efficiency gains. In fact, this is going to cost the federal government and federal taxpayer more in the long run. They did a lot of damage. Things have settled down a little, but I just want to put on your radar screen, the next shoe to drop may be this effort to convert about 50,000 federal merit-based civil service positions into political positions, which would mean people who've been on the job because of what they know would be replaced by people based on who they know, which would undermine our system. This used to be called Schedule F. It has this, benign sounding name, but it would do a lot of damage. Now they're calling it Schedule P for policy, or C for career. In any event, the Trump administration is trying to work through regulations that would allow them to do this. And it's being fought in the courts and being fought in the Congress. But I thought I'd mention that because, of course, Southern Maryland is home to many, many, many hardworking federal employees, many of whom got hit during the first round last year at this time. So that is a bit of a sketch as to where we are right now. I'm happy to. There are, of course, many other issues, but let me close where I started by thanking all of you for your good work. And it's always great to be with you. And let's just keep an open line of communication as we always have.
Well, thank you so very much, Senator Van Hollen. And as you were talking, I'm hopeful that we have a bi-monthly newsletter that goes out to the constituents, many constituents in Charles County, that information can be included as well, particularly as it relates to the $30 million projects that were funded. So we appreciate you for doing that and for always looking out for military bases. Thank you for your support.
Well, thank you.
I will simply say that for us, the most information inquiries we get relate to disabilities. And we're working very closely here with the budget that's coming out. But also, I'm sure we have worked closely with you regarding some of the patients who have DDA concerns. So we thank you for being with us and partnering with us to help those residents.
I'm really glad you raised that, Delegate Patterson, because, we, like you, we work very closely with the disabilities community. And I know as you go through your budget process in Annapolis, that's been an area of special concern. And at the federal level, we've been trying to make sure we continue to provide resources to help people and families with disabilities.
They're a very special group, a very vocal group. Thank you so much. And we will contact you also about another issue as it relates to sickle cell. We know that that's one of your issues, supportive issues as well. And we're fighting very hard to get some legislation through to support the sickle cell disease college students. So thank you again.
Thank you. Right. We have two significant pieces of legislation on sickle cell to try to both expand the sickle cell workforce, right? Because we need more people who are really well trained and able to address the needs of sickle cell patients. But in addition to the workforce, create more of what we call a hub and spoke model, because there are many sickle cell patients, especially when they get older, right? Who have trouble accessing services because they just live a long way away from facilities that can provide those services. So we're trying to bring more of that expertise out to more of the medical facilities in rural areas, both in places like parts of Southern Maryland, as well as in on the Eastern Shore and other more rural areas.
Those are the key places for the fusion centers. Thank you again for your leadership.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I know that you're really busy and we appreciate you taking the time to be with us. Next, we will hear from the Maryland Department of
Thank you.
Veterans.
I'm going to jump off. Thank you all very much. Great to be with you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank
Keep in
you.
touch. Bye-bye.
All right. So, Secretary Rothstein, or Rothstein, Steen, thank you very much. It's good to see you once more. And you're going to provide information as relates to the Maryland Department of Veterans and Military Families. Welcome again.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair, and opportunity always to highlight some of the activities that are happening within the department. The the delegation, I continue to thank you collectively for your support, both with Charlotte Hall, with Pax River, Indian Head, a lot of activity happening within your communities, and you're on the forefront. So I appreciate the work that you're doing and also sharing your insight and candid feedback back to me and the department so we can better serve those that have served. A lot going on. I do have to start with a shout out to my team. I know Morgan's on here along with my entire team. I'm telling you, I'm just blessed walking into this role. We provided a legislative playbook to all of you. And I'm not going to go through that playbook, but the intent there is to share with you the activities that are happening within the department. And then also when a veteran or a service member that may be transitioning reaches out to you and say, what about, what can I do? Well, the playbook gives you some of the key activities and programs, and then also is a way for you to navigate them back to me and to my team. I'm going to talk in depth about Charlotte Hall, but I want to share with you that there's a lot of activity going on in Southern Maryland. We have support officers in Charlotte Hall itself, but also in Camp Springs and in Waldorf. And proud of all of them. I'm very proud with the Waldorf being in the MVA. We have 25 veteran support officers across Maryland in 17 locations, and 10 of those are co-located with MVAs. So we're trying to make a central location, one-stop shop for lots of opportunities for the community to get what they deserve. And to put it in perspective and candidly, we provided over $54.5 million to veterans this past year when it comes to claims and benefits. An example is a 77-year-old Vietnam veteran put a claim in late summer. By December, he received $123,000 lump sum, and then $10,000 every month after that. 77 years old, it allows him to live in his home with dignity, with honor. And these are the things that, the stories that matter. It's the one veteran at a time approach that I think, gets lost when we talk about big statistics. Charlotte Hall is doing really well. I have about 285 residents currently in Charlotte Hall. It is the largest project that I oversee, with about $47 to $50 million a year goes into Charlotte Hall. As you know, I believe it went from a 1-star CMS rated facility to now 4 stars. So we're very proud of that. I am transitioning leadership within Charlotte Hall. I'm very proud that Sharon Murphy has stepped up to out of her retirement to oversee my team in Charlotte Hall. She is a rock star, and we're going to work with her and a national search to find the right executive director moving forward. lots of activity happening. We're in I think the third year of a 4+1 contract with Pruitt Health. It's going well. I'm going to be bringing down Secretary Chadre next week to share with him the impact of the budget right now and moving forward as we're going to go into the fourth year. And probably my intent is to extend the 4+1. So I'm looking forward to that. Um, as you know, and here's another interesting, factoid. I got 5 cemeteries across Maryland, from Rocky Gap to Eastern Shore, Cheltenham, Crownsville, and Garrison Forest. 1% of veterans in the United States call Maryland their home. 350,000+ veterans. We inter 8% of veterans within the United States. We are burying veterans from Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Delaware, DC, Virginia, that are allowed to be buried with dignity in those cemeteries. If I was to say what surprised me the most as far as numbers, that was it. That we bury 3,000+ a year in our cemeteries. And they're just amazing, hard workers, and I visit all of them and I continue to work with them. I am just so impressed when I see the pride that the workers are, especially within the cemeteries. That's what's happening in in our department. I want to really again give you Delegate Patterson a special thanks for pushing the legislation for the enrollment of military kids. One of my colleagues, Lindsay Livingston, along with her son, testified in committees, and it was an experience for him to do that. But I believe he stole the show, and again, it tells you how the impact of these legislation and these bills affect these children. And our military children, our military families are impacted so often by the moves and the changes and the challenges that we have. From my 30+ year experience, that's what I see. And partners within the community, partners within the delegation, within the local municipalities, with the nonprofits. It's not one or the other. It's all of us together make a difference. And I know Yolanda's on here and she's going to be sharing some things with Blue Star families, but she and her team are rock stars. And it's not about the national efforts. It's about on the ground, boots on the ground, making a difference for everyone. So, and let me stop there. Just wanted to give you a kind of one over the world, what's going on.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. And thank you for the book that you provided us. Is very comprehensive, and I will keep this for reference as well. Thank you so much, Sharon Murphy, for coming back. You are truly a rock star for Charlotte Hall, and you're absolutely right, Secretary Rothstein, about her. I have a question though.
Sure.
Because I went to the MVA. So you mentioned the support officers.
Mhm.
Where are they? Do they have? Is it publicized within the MVAs that they're there?
It is. This past year we opened one in Annapolis, the one in Waldorf, and
Okay.
we just recently opened the one in Frederick. They are there. The fact is we got to do better. We got to continue to publicize. And if I was to say what is the biggest challenge, it is how to message across the state, across the diverse state, to ensure people know that we exist, because it's a different message down in Calvert County than it is in Baltimore City. It's a different way to message. And so I'm going to need your help in doing that. We do have a newsletter that goes out every 2 weeks, and we have about 200,000 readers of that newsletter, and amazingly, about a 40% click rate. So they're actually opening this newsletter, and it's full of great information and changes that are happening. I can ensure that you get that, and we can highlight certain activities if you'd like within your districts.
Absolutely. I'm going to embarrass Kara Franklin and ask if we are including that in our bi-monthly newsletter, because ours is pretty comprehensive.
Good morning. We do. It is one of the ones that I'm one of your 40% click rate, and proud of it. And we go through and we handpick what we're going to use for Southern Maryland, specifically for Charles County. But once, I want to say it may have been last year when you opened the Waldorf office in the MVA. We put together our own little Canva and sent that out. So yeah, we include as much as we can. So please keep the information coming.
Absolutely.
And I know Delegate Davis also has a newsletter. We will also work with the various military posts,
Mhm.
the VFWs, etc., to make sure that they know that as well.
No, absolutely. Recently, I met with the national commander for the American Legion, and it was at Post 266 up in Annapolis or Edgewater, and I shared with the gathering that we message things, but then we got to make sure we continue to message them and recognize it's one veteran at a time. We're not going to boil the ocean. We're not going to fix things all at once. We just have to continue to push. So, Kara, I appreciate it, and repeating articles every so often will ensure the Waldorf MVA gets more visibility. So, as an example.
Well, thank you very, very much. Are there any questions? Okay. Well, it's my honor. Let me just say this about the military legislation. I believe there were 5 pieces of legislation I sponsored this year with a crossover from Senator Simon Ayer. He's a very busy man, and it was my honor and pleasure to cross-file with him. And the testimony of the young man, I think you're absolutely right. He stole the show because the legislation was to support them, and as well as their families. So we appreciate him being here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And I'll pass that on.
Okay. Okay, and keeping the focus on military families, I'd like to welcome Yolanda Rayford, who is with the Maryland chapter of Blue Star Families. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much. And so I'm delighted to join, not just because of the work that we're doing within Blue Star Families, but I'm also delighted because of what you do, Madam Chair, and across the state of Maryland, specifically as the agencies work together in order to ensure that military and veteran families are connected. I'm going to stop sharing for a second and then go back to sharing. My name is Yolanda Rayford. I'm the executive director for the Maryland chapter. Really proud of the fact that we are the Maryland chapter. We have a new designation. We were called the Baltimore and Chesapeake region, but it did not give us the full scope of what we're doing. And so as a Maryland chapter, we are involved heavily across the state of Maryland to ensure that military life is awesome for the families that we are supporting. And so what does that mean for you? That means that I have to give you first a little bit of background for me. I am the spouse of an Air Force veteran. We left the U.S. years ago, traveled for 25 years with 5 children, and then intentionally came back to Maryland to make Maryland home back in 2008. And I say that proudly because Maryland is my home, and it is the home of so many military and veteran families. Blue Star Families is a preeminent nonprofit that connects the military and veteran to their community through programs and events. Our goal is to make military life awesome by ensuring a sense of belonging for our faith. We do this at a grassroots and a grass top approach. So, grassroots, we're at a variety of programs and events. Grass tops, we are taking our annual military family lifestyle survey data that I'll share in just a bit and saying, how can we impact families? What can we do legislatively? What do our local, state, and federal partners need to know about what is happening with our families? And so, for your purposes, the programs that we have are varied, whether it is Blue Star Books or Blue Star Careers that helps military spouses, or our caregivers support. What you're hearing is an all-embracing way in which we are understanding the needs of the military and veteran community. And I can proudly say that our map is very dense. So as we support Maryland, and with the name change, we are also supporting Charles, Calvert, and St. Mary's counties. We are grateful that we have programs and events that are occurring just outside of Pax River with an emphasis to expand our reach. And so, what does that mean to you? That means that through a grant that we were given by the Maryland Veterans Trust Fund, we were able to implement a Nourish the Service program. That was done in February with my apologies, with Governor Moore and his team, Secretary Rothstein and his team. Basically, we understand food insecurity and what is happening, and we were able to provide a drive-through event. In more detail, I'll give you a few more details about what is happening as it relates to food insecurity. There in Southern Maryland, we are also involved which is called the START book program. START stands for Serving, Thriving, and Reading Together. And we have been at the Lexington Park Library for over 3 years. We will go back in September. This is where we have a Lexington Park, like 6-week programs. Other counties like shorter programs. At Lexington Park, due to the nature of that area, 6-week program where we come in. We have a storyteller, which is a library staff member. We have a story lover who comes from the Judy Center or Kennedy Krieger. We discuss 2 humanities-based books, and then we all have dinner together. It is an amazing experience in as much as not only are we nourishing the service and providing a meal, but we are connecting our families. And so when I stepped off the plane in Okinawa, Japan, I knew that years ago, my family would become the people that we are assigned with. However, 70% of our active duty military families live off the installation. And so, how do we get them to connect with one another and the resources that they need in order to support their families? And so, I'm delighted to be joined by Bob Smith, who is our new program manager, who provides invaluable programming for our military and veteran communities. So what I'm going to do is actually share my screen, and what I'll do, Kara, for you is to provide you with the slide deck so that you may certainly share that. What this annual military family lifestyle survey is giving you is a moment in time. The moment in time is last year. So from May until June of last year, we conducted the survey. What it does not encompass is 2 government shutdowns and the current 21-day world situation that is happening. We will begin to collect data from our families again May of this year. So the topics that we are addressing were related specifically to housing, financial security, community, and belonging. I will be giving a deeper dive for the statistics as it relates to Maryland on Monday at the Maryland Military Installation Council. So the overarching view is that we had 6,100 respondents. What you'll see here is that we had a very large number of veterans who also responded. More often than not, you're going to have the spouse or the domestic partner who is going to fill out that survey and tell us what's going on. The survey is done in collaboration with the Institute of Veterans and Military Families and Syracuse University. And this has been done since 2009 when Blue Star Families was begun by military spouses. Left side, you see the branch of service who responded. Right side are, the people and the ranks where they responded. So at the very top, not a lot. At the very bottom, not a lot. E1 to O4, O7 to O10. But we did get the results that we needed. And so the results that we needed said, what do we need to do about quality of life issues? Always top of mind is military spouse employment. We are unemployed or underemployed at a 23% rate. As a military spouse myself, traveling the world, I have had more than 20 jobs. And so what do we want to do in order to mitigate some of the things that are going on with military spouse employment? And Maryland is leading the way in trying to address that. Additional challenges are childcare challenges, and then I'm going to hang out at food security or food insecurity. Our families are telling us that they are having challenges as they put food on the table, that they've utilized a food pantry, or they can't afford to eat balanced meals. And so our Nourish the Service program that we are providing in conjunction with Chobani Yogurt has done amazing work. So last year during the government shutdown, we were able to go to 3 different installations, and Pax River was one of them, where we provided a pizza and game night. So we invited families, pizza, the whole thing. And then as they left, they got a taco kit. And so that taco kit included everything they needed to have a great taco night, as well as a $20 commissary gift card in order to purchase a protein. More information on our food insecurity. Again, I'll send Kara the details so she can share them with you. With about 2 minutes left, I'm going to run through the slides so that you can absolutely see the ways in which people are responding. And the ways in which people are responding, they're trying to make a determination, are they going to tell someone, hey, join the military, join us? Now, again, as I mentioned previously, this is a point in time last year. This year, 2026, is when we will capture more data, and those statistics may certainly change. This is a closer look at military life for active duty families. Again, we're talking about spouse employment and what is happening there. We discussed housing and the impact of housing costs for our military families. And then the perceptions of belonging and community support that our families are feeling. Do they know that their neighbor will support them, or a civilian supporter knows what's going on, right? Are our families volunteering in their local communities? And then left side gives you, those who felt a sense of belonging. Right side, a sense of those who don't feel a sense of belonging. And then the nation's support and future service. 77% indicated that, they feel strongly that it's going to impact future recruitment. 59% were not confident. Again, that was last year. Things may change based on this year. And finally, with the last 2 slides, last slide. There you go. Boom. What we will do is to share all of our data with Kara so that she can certainly share it across the board. We will certainly look in order to connect with everyone and let you all know what we are doing in Southern Maryland. Our concentration currently is Pax River and that St. Mary's County, although we do have a footprint in Calvert County and Charles County as we have volunteers. So what you're looking at is two staff members. That is Bob and myself. And then we are supported by 10 to 80 volunteers across Maryland who are rolling up their sleeves in order to support us. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very, very much. I don't know if we have any questions, but I do want to acknowledge the fact that we have had experience with some local groups who shared with us some of the data you've cited, such as the food insecurity. I know that some of the VFWs have also sponsored baby shower gifts, baskets, etc., that we've had a chance to attend. And so it's very critical that we support the military families, because otherwise we would know that these issues or conditions existed. I'd also thank you for citing the legislation that were proposed. I believe it's passed both the House as well as maybe the Senate, as it relates to the Uniformed Services Spouse Act, which is legislation I cross-filed with Senator Simonier, which again gives spouses an opportunity for employment by waiving some of the requirements that are needed. So thank you for your advocacy and what it is you're doing, and supporting the Blue Star families.
Thank you so much. And Madam Chair, I just wanted to say one thing. Fun fact, I had a colleague who reached out to me who lives in New England who said, "Hey, Yolanda, it's amazing what Maryland is doing, Delegate Patterson and the Purple Star Initiative." And so she is right. She is in New England. And so you have a far-reaching sort of platform. And so we really appreciate what you're doing
Well,
all across the board. Thank you.
Um, Again, it's been my honor to have again the information given to me to advocate for, because you mentioned your spouse. My husband was a veteran for over 20 years with the Army, and he served. Well, he was an educator as well, but he was a reservist for the 20 years, and so I do some of this in his honor as well. Okay. Thank you all so very much for being here. I don't see any other questions, any other comments, any burning issues. Again, this is our last meeting, and it's really a phenomenal meeting. And we thank you for all that you do for your service. And we look forward to continued collaboration. And Mr. Secretary, we will have you back in Charles County for the forums as it relates to some of the veterans taking advantage of programs, initiatives, and training that's offered through your department.
Anytime.
All
Life
right,
is good.
thank you. I'd like to thank Kara Franklin, my chief of staff, who has been so phenomenally gracious in hosting us and putting this together, and for her work to support the Southern Maryland delegation, and to my colleagues as well. So again, this is sign off, and we wish you well, and thank you for being with us.